Many of the solutions where Kapow Katalyst can be hugely beneficial involve automating manual processes. We often find that customers use manual processes where they prefer to be using IT systems, but unfortunately traditional development approaches can be just too expensive, take too long, or they just may not be possible, perhaps due to a lack of IT expertise or perhaps due to having no access to the underlying IT systems themselves. Now, where this is the case, it's very common to find that manual processes are implemented to fill these integration gaps where IT just hasn't been able to deliver. And these are exactly the sorts of processes where Kapow Katalyst can provide a very cost-effective, sort of no-coding means of turning these manual processes into automated functions. So let's have a look at a typical business process where a variety of tools, things like Excel, email, databases, and even external partner portals, these systems all need to be coordinated to ensure the smooth running of an order processing system. As you can see, we're looking at Outlook here, and as is the way with many of these processes, they all initiated from receipt of an email. And in this particular case, you can see that I have a new email here from T1 Enterprises, who are telling me that they've raised a new purchase order for me. And if I want to view that purchase order as a supplier to them, then it tells me I need to log into their vendor portal. So I'll do that right now. Let's click on the vendor portal, and here you can see obviously I need to log in with my appropriate credentials. And whilst I'm in their supplier portal, what I need to do is check on the orders, and what we're looking for, if memory serves me correct, is 1277. So I can't actually see 1277 in this list. It must be on one of these other pages of results. So I need to keep scrolling through here. Note, for example, this is not a particularly sophisticated portal, and there's no search capability for me here. So I just have to rely on clicking through these till I find, there it is, that's the one I'm interested in. And in fact, the way this is configured is if I click on the link here, you can see that it's going to download an Excel spreadsheet, and within this Excel spreadsheet I find all my appropriate line items for the order. So I've got all the information I'm looking for here, and what we typically find with these sorts of processes is that you then have to copy and paste these bits of information manually from this Excel spreadsheet that we've downloaded from a partner portal into our own back end, which will probably ultimately end up in our own internal database. The other thing that we quite often find with these applications is that not only do we download this, but there's also usually some way of changing the status. So in this particular process, I can see that they've raised the order, but what I want to do is come in here and ensure that what we do is change the status of the order and tell them that we're actually going to accept the order. It's in progress. We can provide an estimated delivery date for them and give them our reference number. Click Save to update their partner portal. I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to go and show you how we can automate that process. So we see a very typical process involving email, Excel, and an external third-party web application. And these are the sorts of processes that, using traditional IT, really difficult to integrate in a cost-effective manner. So let's have a look at how we would address this with Kapow. I'm going to break the problem down into 3 different steps. First of all, getting the email, and then processing the order from the partner portal, and the final step is sort of updating the partner portal to change the status of the order. I'm actually going to do it in reverse order to make it a little bit simpler. So let's have a look first of all at how we acknowledge an order on the partner portal. So what we see here is the Design Studio. This is the development tool that we use within Kapow Katalyst to build these workflows. And here we've got a very simple workflow that deals with the process of updating the status of one of the orders. So we need a few bits of information to help us do this. First of all, we have the credentials that I need to use to log into the partner portal. So just a username and password that we're going to use there. Then also I need the information that we're going to use to update the partner portal. So in this particular case, I need to know which purchase order I need to update, and then the information I'm actually going to use to update it. For example, here we've got things like our estimated delivery date that we're going to use, that sort of thing. So the steps involved, very straightforward. The first one here is actually loading the partner portal. So you can see, just as we saw in the external browser, I can load up this page internally, and now what I need to do is, just as we did in the external browser, I need to enter my username, my password, and actually log into this process. Now you can see here that this is actually a group of steps. We call it a snippet, and this snippet is really useful because it enables me to reuse this functional block that logs me into the partner portal. So it means whenever I build another workflow, I can just simply reuse that snippet in it in order to automate that very simple process of logging into the to the portal. Now what I need to do is exactly as we did in the external browser. Click on the orders, and you'll recall that we're looking for 01277 as our order here. So let's see if we can find that. Now what I've got here is I've got a little step here that's looking for our purchase order number, and let's see if we can find it. In this particular case, it's giving me an error. It's saying, look, I can't find that particular order number on the page. Understandable, it's not there. So I have another little bit of logic here that enables us to go to the next page. So if I click on this this item here, you'll see that currently we're on page 1. This little loop enables us to effectively click the next button, and now we're going to try that again on this particular page. Can we get past? No, still not on this page. So let's try page 3. Now I can see here it's found the item and marked it for us. So we're going to use that as a marker, and at this particular point, based on that as our marker, we can click the appropriate link over here for the status, which takes us to the update status page as we saw in the external browser. So in here I've got a group of steps. You'll notice there are actually 2 different options here, because there are various statuses that we could pass to this robot. In this particular case, it's accepted. We're accepting the order, but we could quite easily tell the workflow that we're going to cancel this order. So in this particular case, we're only going to go along this top route because we're accepting the order. So what I need to do here is to change the status, and this illustrates one of the features of Kapow here that's very useful. In our world, we say that the status is accepted, but actually on the partner portal, they don't use the word accepted, they use in progress. So we need to do some sort of translation between our accepted and their in progress, and that's exactly what these converters do here. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, look, I need to choose the link, the appropriate option in this drop down, and I'm using a converter here to say quite simply, when we say accepted, choose the link that says in progress. Cancelled is a direct translation in our world and their world, but very typical item here. So as it's accepted, we've now chosen the in progress dialog. You'll also notice that this is a dynamically generated page, so as soon as I choose that option, the structure of the page changes, and Kapow Katalyst can handle these dynamic AJAX type sites with no problem at all. So now I need to fill in a few of the other details. So let's take the delivery date, the update date, and here we've got our order reference number, and let's just fill in the update date. Let's just keep it as today, and obviously to complete this order, what I need to do is to click the save button. So in the normal world, that's it, job done. And in fact, I can now see that the order status has changed to the 9th of November, and the order is in fact now in progress rather than raised. But to be a very good workflow, what I should probably do is to validate that that process has actually been carried out. What I can't be sure of is just because I click the save button, I don't know for certain that that's actually happened. There could be a problem with their portal that means that hasn't actually happened. However, if I can now see that the status is in progress here, there's a fair chance that that's actually worked. So I'm going to use that as a validation step in this last little group here. Again, what I'm doing is I'm finding the purchase order that we're interested in on the current page. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check that the in progress matches the appropriate status that we've got here, and I can see that it does. We know the mapping of accepted and in progress, in which case I can carry on and I can return the output value as a response that everything has worked. If it doesn't, then I would actually set an error message here and say, look, something has failed and we need to investigate further. The update failed. So you can see we've got the first part of our process where we can actually change the order status on the partner portal. Now the other thing we need to do on the partner portal is to actually download the order information and store that into our database that we have internally. In order to do that, I've got another workflow process set up. It's very similar to the previous one in that what we can do here is log into the partner portal, again using that snippet. I have to navigate to the appropriate item, so we know that that's on page 3. So let's find page 3 here, and this time what we're interested in is once we've found it, we actually want to click on the link that enables us to download that spreadsheet, and we can do that quite happily inside Kapow Katalyst. It's not the fully formatted version that you saw in Excel previously, but all the data is there that we're interested in. I can see each of these line items in turn, and I can actually manipulate this spreadsheet in exactly the same way I would do inside Excel. So what I've got here is I've got a group of steps set up that effectively mark key bits of information in this spreadsheet, like where the total is and that sort of thing. So based on the text of the cell, it will find me this, and I've put a little marker on there, a range in Excel terms. And then I've got a group of steps that simply extract the relevant content. So for example, extracting the purchase order reference, I know that it's relative to this ID tag, therefore I can get the purchase order reference and store that in my purchase order data item we have out here. So this first group deals with populating the purchase order record. What I'm also going to do here is assign my own internal ID based on some naming conventions that we have. So we have some rules there. I've calculated this, and then I need to store that purchase order in a database. But let's not forget also that we have a number of line items. So again, I have a line item data type here that we need to populate. So I have a loop step now that will enable me to loop through each of the line items in turn, and for each one of them what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually extract the relevant details into the line item. So we can see on this particular iteration of the loop we have the appropriate information there, and you'll see that as I cycle through each of these items, the details change in the bottom to correspond with the appropriate iteration that we're looking at. And then finally store that in the database. So again, very simple process that enables me to log into the partner portal, download the Excel spreadsheet, parcel it out and extract the bits of data that I'm interested in. Incidentally, I can test these in the design environment here. Give it the appropriate input. So here we've got the purchase order number. Remember, I'd also need to specify my credentials there, but let's give it the same purchase order information. And if I hit the run button, you can see the steps actually being executed. There we go, it's all over. So here are all the line item bits of information that have been stored in the database. So again, another very simple process that enables us to extract the information and store it in our local database. So the final step in the puzzle is the email bit. How do I actually acknowledge the emails and trigger the other steps in the process? Well, again, similar sort of process, very simple. This time we're going to use Outlook web app in order for us to log into Outlook. I need the username and password for an appropriate inbox, and once I'm signed in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the folder viewing information in exactly the same way I would do manually. Select the folder list, select the appropriate folder where my purchase orders go, and make sure I click on the link to say, right, now navigate to that. And here we can see I've got my brand new order. It's the one that we've been looking at so far. And what I need to do is to cycle through all of these, because I could have multiple orders. So again, I've got a loop here. This step only deals with unread emails, so I could ignore all these ones because we've already processed them. But this one needs processing, so this is my little check on that particular item. Let's click on the email to get the detail of it, and this is where the information might change. Now obviously I'm expecting orders from various different partners, and this particular group of steps here enables me to process the emails in different ways depending on which partner it's coming from. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to test the email. I'm actually going to test who has actually sent me this email. In this case we can see it's purchasing at T1 Enterprises, but I've got various different partners. I'm going to test each of these email addresses to see, is it coming from Balfour Beatty? In this case no, it's not, so I can't go down that route. So let's try this route. Is it Barrett Homes? Again, we can see that it's not, so we won't go that route, we'll go this route. Is it T1 Enterprises? Well, yeah, we can see it is, but now the workflow knows it is as well. So because we've identified who it's from, we can now implement subtly different logic in terms of where are we going to get the purchase order number in terms of the template they use for these emails. So let's extract that purchase order item and let's put it into our order variable down here, so I know which order I have to deal with. Now interestingly, what we've got here in this particular step, we are calling a web service. The web service we're calling is effectively this process that we saw a moment ago. It's taking as input a purchase order number, as we've seen. We're going to pass this to it, and it's going to do all of the logic that we saw in this process, all encapsulated in this one simple step here. And what this is going to do for us is it's going to return an XML document for us, if it worked, with the values associated with the purchase order that we've created. So because I haven't got an error here, I can tell everything worked. We logged into the partner portal successfully. We've downloaded this purchase order and stored it in our own internal database. And I can see that we've got the appropriate information there that tells me all that. So now I've got all the information in our database. What I now need to do is update the partner portal. So again, this could be different depending on which partner we're dealing with. In this case it's T1 Enterprises. But first of all I need to specify what information am I going to use to update the partner portal. So in this particular case I've got an update record, so I'm going to specify what's the information that I need to use to update the partner site. So I'm going to put in the R reference number, I'm going to put in the original purchase order reference there, I'm going to change the status to accepted. I'm also going to enter whatever the update date is, that's today, so that's the 9th of November, and then we also have a date that our estimated delivery is 14 days into the future. So I'm going to take our existing date, this update date here, I'm just simply going to add 14 days to it, and that will provide our update date of the 23rd of the 11th. Now, which partner portal am I going to update? So again, similar sort of thing. Depending on the internal ID number that we have, we'll either update Balfour Beatty, Barrett Homes, we know that this is T1 Enterprises, so I'll skip straight to this branch. And again, a bit like we saw before, inside this one single step, we've got all of the order acknowledgement logic that we saw in the very first process here. So all of this logic is basically stored up inside this one simple step here. And if I click past it, we'll execute that process. Takes a second. There we go, all done. And now I've got some results here again, as we saw before, either giving me an error code if something went wrong with the partner portal, or as we've got in this particular case, a record showing me that everything was updated correctly. But again, I'm not going to rely on this fact here. What I also want to do is actually check that in terms of, did we get the same purchase order number back that they anticipated rather than an error. Let's set a success message saying this all worked, and let's return that as output from this process. Failing that, we would generate an error message again and perhaps trigger an email to notify somebody that something went wrong. So hopefully you can see, you put all this together in a number of fairly simple workflows, to automate that manual process. And just to cap this all off, I'll show you one final thing. What we can do is take these processes and we can schedule them to occur at a various frequency. So in the operational environment, what we have is something called a management console, and this is my admin tool that enables me to view the repository of robots that I have in my production environment. And what I'm interested in is this particular project here. And in fact, what I've done is I've set up a schedule here, very simple. It's called process partner orders. And what this will do is every 10 minutes from 5 past midnight on the 1st of January this year, it runs this process, the check for new purchase orders. So that's this process that we've just had a look at in the background. In other words, every 10 minutes it logs into my email, checks for any new orders, and if we find any orders, it processes them, logs everything, updates the partner portals, or logs any error messages if those occur. So you can see that I've 100% automated this rather tedious manual process, and it's taken me no coding effort whatsoever, and it only takes a matter of an hour or two to pull all this together. So I hope that's proved informative for you. If you want any more information, check out www.kapowsoftware.com. Thanks very much. Bye bye.